In this lecture today, we are going to start something which is very important in the sense that there are many things which are correlated with the structure, and there are other subjects that you will come across where you would need this concept to connect to various other phenomena. So please try and understand these concepts, because as I said, it is going to be important in your other subjects as well. There are phenomenon or topics, for example, X-ray diffraction, that you would come across, and those kind of concepts are totally based upon this particular concept that we are going to talk about today. Okay, so basically I'm talking about crystal structure. So when you talk about crystal structure, basically what this means is, in a solid there is a pattern. Okay, you have atoms in solids, and these atoms form a pattern or arranged in a particular pattern. So we are talking about a pattern or a regular periodic arrangement of atoms which will give rise to a particular structure, what we call as the crystal structure. But that is not all, because we need to understand how a crystal structure is formed. I mean, what is the basis of that? So if you want to understand that, you have to understand few more terms. First of all, you need to understand what is a crystal, and in order to understand this, you also have to understand another term known as lattice. Okay, so these are the two terms that you would come across first when talking about crystal systems or crystal structure. Okay, and sometimes these two terms are confused. These are used kind of with the same meaning alternatively, but please do remember that these two are different. If I define them from that angle also, from the definition also, it might apparently look similar, but please try and understand that these two are different. Then only you would be able to appreciate the real meaning of crystal structures. Okay, so if I define crystal, it is basically a transnationally periodic arrangement of atoms in space. And lattice is a transnationally periodic arrangement of points in space. So as I mentioned, apparently this again may look similar, but you would see that there is just one small term which is making these two different. In one case, we are saying that it is arrangement of atoms in space, that is the crystal, and for the lattice, we are saying that it is periodic arrangement of points in space. So this is the distinction that you need to make here. Okay, so as we go along, we will understand that. So if it is just points, that is the lattice, how do you get to the crystal from this? That is the question that we are asking, because lattice does not talk about atoms. It is saying that it's a periodic arrangement of points. So that means to each of these points we need to assign an atom, something that can be repeated, right? And that repetition in 3D will give you the entire crystal structure. That is what we will understand now. So with lattice, we need something, lattice plus something which can be repeated in a periodic manner to generate the crystal structure. So that something is known as a motif. Okay. So we'll define motif first, then we'll see the connection of motif and lattice with the crystal. Motif can be defined as an atom or a group of atoms associated with each lattice point. So basically, motif is the repeating pattern or the repeating unit of the pattern. So if you have a pattern, how that is repeated, the motif will tell you. Okay. So lattice tells you how to repeat. Or in other words, you can also say that lattice is the underlying periodicity of the crystal. Right? Which means that it tells you how to repeat to generate a pattern. On the other hand, motif tells you what to repeat. Unless you know that, it is difficult to generate a pattern. So when you want to define a crystal, both of these information are required. You need to know what is the lattice of that pattern and what is the motif as to what is that which you have to repeat to generate the structure or the pattern. I'll give you an example, and with that example we should be able to understand what I mean here. Okay. So we have defined all these terms which are necessary for us to understand crystal structure, right? And now we'll see how these two would connect, lattice plus motif, to generate a pattern what we call as a crystal. All right. Let us consider a pattern of these diamonds. So you can see this is a periodic arrangement. It is in a pattern, right? We can all see that. But is this enough for us to generate the entire structure? We'll call this the diamond structure, let's say. Okay. If you really want to define the structure or this pattern, you need to assign a point to a particular position in this diamond pattern. So let us consider the center of these diamonds as that point, that position. We'll assign one point to each of the centers of these diamonds. Okay. And if I do that, I would find that a nice pattern or a nice periodicity of points is generated. I'll take out the diamond for you to see that clearly. Can you see a pattern of points? A periodic arrangement of points, right? So when you assign points at periodic distances in each of the directions here in the 2 dimensions, you could see that a pattern or a periodic arrangement of points in the space is generated. So this is our lattice, right? Because going by the definition, we can say that this is periodic arrangement of points in the space, right? But this is not enough for us to generate the entire pattern, because we had a pattern of diamond, right? And at this point, I should also tell you that you can assign these points at any position in this pattern. I mean, it is not necessary for you to put one point at the center only. You can put anywhere you want, provided each of the points are placed at the same point, at the same position every time. So here we have placed every point at the center every time. Each time we have placed it at the center of the diamond. But if I want, I can generate the lattice by placing it, let's say, at one of the vertices, for example, and you would see that the same lattice is generated, right? So it is just the periodic arrangement of points, okay? Now, as I said, for me to generate, to obtain that diamond pattern, I need to assign this diamond to each of these points. Again, periodically, I can keep the point at the center again, or I can keep the point at the tip, that is fine. But I need to assign one diamond to one point for me to obtain that diamond pattern we started with. Then only we can clearly see that there is a pattern. We can call that a diamond pattern because we have chosen a shape like that. Okay. So what does it mean basically? It means that when you combine the lattice with a motif, you generate the crystal. So here we have seen that we have a lattice, a periodic arrangement of points, and when we assign one diamond here to each of those points, we generated the diamond pattern, which is basically that structure or the crystal that we are looking for, right? So to obtain the crystal or the crystal structure, you need a lattice and you need a motif. Okay, lattice will tell you how to repeat and motif will tell you what to repeat. All right.